Happy Halloween and welcome to the Early Edge, brought to you by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. The chat is already buzzing. We have a great show, a lot of Thursday night football picks, maybe some picks from you in the chat. We can answer any chat questions you have in the NFL, in soccer in particular. Let's take a look at the recap screen from yesterday. Oh, very spooky, Jake the Snake. Absolutely love it. It looks like we were 4-2. Nice bounce back from the day before. We'll take 4-2 pretty much every time, and we'll try to do it better today. Ladies and gentlemen, on this Halloween, nobody's dressed up. We're kind of lame, kind of fun police-ish here. Let's bring in the stars of the show. We've got Mike McClure. We've got Larry Hartstein. We've got Buckets. I am actually a little disappointed that nobody dressed up. Buckets, I kind of expected you to have some sort of get-up, some sort of costume. What's going on here?
Dude, I forgot today was Halloween. I have no idea until I saw that graphic. For a second. I hate Halloween, and until I saw that graphic, I had no idea what was going on.
I'm actually also not really a Halloween guy. I think I just hate fun. I think, Larry, how about you? Are you dressing up tonight, or what? Back in the day, were you the dress up guy like everybody else?
I was for a while, but that was back in the day. But it's all about the candy. You know, the kids are excited. Mike and Ike's, we got a bunch of stuff going on. So that's all I got.
Speaking of Mike and Ike's, Mike, I trust you are just not the costume type.
Yeah, definitely not the costume type. I will say, though, I did this morning attempt to buy a clown mask because it's the only appropriate thing I could wear, giving the play I'm going to give. But apparently there are a lot of others that feel the same way because they were completely sold out of clown masks. I think that's only correlated to one team here.
I thought, Mike, you were talking about the Yankees and the defense and,
Same state. Yeah. Well, kind of. Jersey. Yeah, same area.
That's pretty funny. We actually have Mike and I have the same pick today, and the last time that happened, it lost, which should be a surprise to everybody. We'll get to our picks in a little bit, and we're gonna listen. If you have prop questions or anything about this is a kind of a weird game in my opinion, for a lot of different reasons. So I don't have a lot of strength personally on a lot of different props, but we'll have props in this show to give out. Buckets. We want to start with soccer, however. There was somebody in the chat that said something to the effect of, and I can't see it now because you guys are so, but the chat questions are just coming, the chat comments, which we absolutely love, but it said something like, Buckets, you definitely have both teams to score play in Serie A. It was something like that. I wonder, is that the case?
That is the case, Sia. But if we're going to get into our plays, we're not going to start with that one. Instead, we're going to go to the spooky play between Genoa and Fiorentina because this line scares the hell out of me, frankly, because it just doesn't make sense. Fiorentina over 1.5 team total. Fiorentina to score 2 is -110. And that is terrifying because it makes me want to put 100 units on this play. I'm a little confused here, Sia. Genoa has the worst defense in all of Italy right now. They have conceded 2 to the likes of Venezia in recent weeks. There we go. Meanwhile, Fiorentina is absolutely rampaging through Serie A. They beat St. Gallen in Europa 4-2. They beat Roma 5-1. They beat Lecce 6-0. They beat Milan 2-1, all in their last 4 games. Fiorentina has scored at least 2 goals now in 5 matches straight, and all 5 of those matches were against teams way better than Genoa. Not to mention, Genoa are missing 2 of their starting defenders to injury right now. This one, it honestly scares me, Sia, but I'm probably going to end up putting 2 units on this because Fiorentina could do this in the first half. And then whoever in the chat said we're going to get a both teams to score play, you're absolutely right. We're looking at Como versus Lazio for this one. And I know that Como hurt us last week against Torino, but Como is still the both teams to score kings of Italy. They have now hit this in 5 of their last 6 matches. And Lazio is not the same defensive Lazio we saw last season when they had players like Ciro the Hero playing there. This game could be 2-2. It could be 3-3, but all we need is at some point in the match for both teams to hit that score at -120.
Absolutely love it. Love both of the picks. I mean, am I going to put 2 units on that first play? You sounded really confident, Buckets. I think I might have to take this one.
Yeah, I think you should, Sia. And if I'm wrong and end up missing this, just don't expect me to be on the show tomorrow. I might just go hide for a bit.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Speaking of the show, let's see. Who was it? Jason Pogwa says, Jake working overtime on the graphics. Yeah, he certainly was. That was some good stuff. Maybe some good stuff to come as well. And then Jeffrey Aguilar says, shout out to Sniper in his series picks. That, of course, is World Series picks, and Proppy on his NBA props. I know he went 3-0 on the article on Monday. I don't know if he had any picks yesterday, but thank you, Jeffrey Aguilar, for mentioning that. Larry, before we get to more picks, can I just ask you something? Mark Buckholtz says, Garrett, too good to cover first base Cole. You and Jake the Snake were talking pre-show about that game. Any reaction to either that play, or I should have probably led with the fact that the Dodgers are your World Series champion. Any reaction to the World Series win? Down 5-0, coming back and win this game. It was very Dodgers-esque.
Yeah, as bad as Aaron Judge is dropping the ball and then not getting the put out at third base, to me, the egregious thing, the inexcusable thing, even worse, is not covering first base. He starts to run for first, and then he stops. I mean, it's the World Series. What do you have to lose by giving an extra effort, even if he thought there was a slight chance that Rizzo was going to take it himself? To me, that was totally inexcusable. And I just love Freddie Freeman, though, because that guy, the way he handled his MVP and the way he talked about everyone, it was genuine. I don't think he, some of these guys say, yeah, it was great, but it's all about the team. He seemed like a genuine guy that everybody loved, and he was crediting, the entire team for getting on and letting him have 12 RBIs.
Yeah, it's interesting because I didn't even know if he was going to be healthy for the World Series. And so, I mean, I think of like MVP odds and things of that nature. We had, I think Sniper gave out Mookie Betts plus 900 MVP. I'm sure a lot of people were on Ohtani. Like, I'm sure the books cleaned up because I can't imagine people were, because that is a popular bet for the World Series. I can't imagine anybody was throwing money on Freddie Freeman with that injury that he had. Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, I would say, speaking to Freddie Freeman's injury and Ohtani, like, you're talking about a team there that if this were regular season action, neither one of those guys would have been in the lineup for any of the last 3 games, which is just absolutely incredible to see what Freddie Freeman was able to do. Well deserved. I know it was painful for Atlanta Braves fans potentially, but very, very nice to see it end that way for Freddie, because there's probably nobody more deserving in MLB.
Absolutely. All right. We're going to transition to a little bit of football, maybe a bit of football next. But before we do that, we got to tell you, we've all had our first touchdown bet called back before, and BetMGM is giving you a second chance with BetMGM's Pro Football Second Chance. Place any first touchdown score bet, and if your player doesn't score first but scores second, get your entire stake back in cash. No opt-in required. Here's how it works. Place a pregame straight first touchdown score bet in any NFL game. If your player scores the first touchdown in the game, win your wager is normal. If your player scores the second touchdown in the game, you'll get your stake back in cash. It's that simple. Log into BetMGM for more details. I kind of like Tyler Conklin at plus 1,800, but we got some real picks, some real sides, and some real props to give out next. We'll do it right after this message from our partners.
CBS Sports HQ, giving you college football coverage unlike anyone else.
We're talking Big Ten.
Pre- and post-game coverage.
Are you encouraged with the way that this team responded?
Along with breaking news.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
Highlights and expert analysis.
That streak could be in jeopardy here.
Sure. What was your main takeaway from this game? How impressive was his domination?
That really changed the football game.
Let's go ahead and have some more fun.
Another wild ending.
The chaos continues.
Turn to CBS Sports HQ.
We're back on the Early Edge, brought to you by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. Some more compliments for prop stars. Kevin McKenzie says, Proppy's been on fire for 48 hours, parentheses, also for 4 years, close parentheses. Love to see that. You know who's not been on fire? Mike McClure. The New York Jets have not been on fire. They are 2-6, and they are hosting the 6-2 Houston Texans. So, of course, Mike, of course, the spread's got to be like Houston -4, Houston -3.5. And if somehow the Jets -2 or -1.5, there's no way we're on the Jets, right?
Right. No way. Yeah, I love the Jets here again. I wish I had the clown mask. I should be wearing the clown mask. I'm back in the New York Jets here, though. Look, this is just such a difficult spot for the Houston Texans. We all know about the injury concerns. Frankly, they've been a shell of themselves without Nico Collins. Now you remove Stephon Diggs and some injuries defensively. But for me, it's the offensive line and just what they're having to deal with. This team has played so many games in such a short period of time. Another road game on a short week. And it's the offensive line that's not going to give CJ Stroud enough time to operate. And it would be one thing if this offensive line was playing this way and this tired. if they had both of the receivers in a good spot. But when they're not in a good spot, the timing is off. And if you don't have great timing when you don't have time to throw, that is going to be a problem here for me. And then for the Jets, it's a very disappointing 2-6, could easily be 6-2, but they are obviously not. Look, the kicking game is always in question. I like the Jets here on the money line, though. I priced this one up to 59% winner. That means we should be paying minus 144 for this Jets team. I look for one last effort out of this team. Obviously, you could say it's over now. If they don't win here, it's certainly over. But one more time, clown mask in hand, we are backing the New York Jets on the money line.
It's funny. I just read the comments. Samuel Gallegos thought I was calling you out, Mike, when I said, who's not been up. Like, no. That was definitely the Jets. I will never be.
I have lost 3 plays in a row, so I might be right there with the Jets.
The worst losing streak of Mike's life, I'm sure. The most talented bettor I've ever been around, truly. And there's a lot. We're talking about prop stars, Mike McClure, Larry Hartstein, buckets, a lot of really good people at SportsLine. Speaking of SportsLine, if you want to become a member and get all the picks, all of Mike McClure's simulations and DFS plays across all sports, all of Bucket's articles, all of Larry's picks, you go to sportsline.com/join and you type in the promo code winners and you get 60% off the annual plan. You can also scan that QR code if you're watching us on YouTube. If you are, hit the like button. But again, sportsline.com/join, type in the promo code winners, and you get 60% off the annual plan. Again, this is not just a picks site. If you actually log on to sportsline.com, you realize once you get off the picks tab, there is so much that this has to offer, including fantasy football, fantasy everything, you name it, Sportsline's got it. So check it out. All right, Larry, before we get to your pick, I'm just going to add on to Mike's. I'm on a nice little streak here, right? Like I'm doing really well. The last thing I want to do, 9 in a row, and I'm going for 10 on the Jets. Like, it's silly, right? Like I shouldn't be doing it. This is this is the universe telling me it's over. You pick the Jets, that's on you. But listen, I agree with Mike here. I think I'm down with the Jets. I don't think this is not as much a play on the Jets as it is a fade of the Houston Texans. I don't think the Texans, if you look at the box scores, it looks pretty good. They've rattled off a lot of wins. I just don't think they're playing very well. You can create a lot of pressure on CJ Stroud, and I don't think that's a good situation when you have him without Nico Collins and Stephon Diggs. I mean, who is he throwing to at the end of the day? We're talking about Tank Dell, who's still battling coming back from injury, in my opinion, Xavier Hutchinson, John Mechie, Dalton Schultz. Mixon will be able to run the ball, but I think they're going to need a little bit more than that. Give me the Jets money line, minus 120. Buckets, what's going on over there?
I'm very torn because I would never in a billion years go near a showdown against Mike McClure. That is what we call financial suicide. You are throwing money out the window. However, a showdown against Sia, that's kind of tasty for me. I don't mind that. I understand that M Squared is going to be attached to this in one way or the other. But if I'm not mistaken, and I'm using my high-level analytic skills here, Jets are 2-6 and Texans are 6-2, correct?
Yes.
And by those numbers, that means Texans are probably the better team. So I kind of like
definitely the better team. Yeah,
better team. Yeah, give me the showdown all day on this. I don't even care about the spread. Just give me the money line. 6-2, that's easy money.
I thought my streak was going to come to an end. I was wrong. Play the music.
Bum, bum. It's gonna be a showdown.
This is fantastic. Rebecca O'Connor in the chat. She says, I will not bet the Jets today. I will not bet the Jets today. I will not bet the Jets today. Buckets, go ahead.
And to add to that, let's go ahead and add A. Rodgers to the no-fly zone as well, throwing an interception in this one. I have no idea if Stroud will, but I think Rodgers has at least one in him this game.
Very interesting. I actually think Stroud will. Stroud is even money to throw an interception. I kind of like that, especially with the receiver issues and the pressure that the Jets may get on him. All right. No fly zone. Buckets is going with Aaron Rodgers. Larry, you're not going to any sort of fly zone. You're going to a running back who's, I don't know if I should call it a rebirth. I don't know what to call it, but he's exceeding, I think, everybody's expectations. You have a play on Joe Mixon.
Yeah, when the Texans traded for Joe Mixon, Bobby Slowik came out and said, this guy is a workhorse, an absolute workhorse. And that's exactly what they're doing with him. 25 carries the past 2 weeks. Then the game against the Patriots was a blowout. He only ran 13 times, but they also used him 30 times in a game earlier this season. Dameon Pierce is out. There is zero competition for carries here. You don't have your two starting wide receivers, your top two target guys. You're facing a Jets team that people run the ball on 50% of the time. That is the sixth highest rate in the NFL. So you're going up against a defense that you can run on, that's the better way to attack them. In a place where CJ Stroud did not play well last time, they are going to lean on Joe Mixon. As long as this game is close, which I think is going to be a tight, low-scoring game, Joe Mixon, and more Joe Mixon. I even love him catching the ball out of the backfield, too. This guy has been outstanding in every facet. Like you said, Sia, kind of a revelation. I don't think people were expecting this kind of efficiency from Joe Mixon, but I do expect the Texans to ride him tonight. I'm going over 20.5 carries.
All right. I have a question for you, Mike, because one of the plays I wanted to make, especially because the Jets are having such trouble finishing games, I don't know that they really know how to, but I expect them to be better this game. Farzad asks Jets first quarter. I was thinking about an official play on the Jets first half because I do think they'll come out at home, especially with the adjustments that CJ Stroud and company have to make on a short week with the lack of receiver depth. I thought the Jets kind of early was potentially a good look, but Farzad asks Jets first quarter. Any thoughts there?
I don't mind it. I do shy away from it a lot more in the NFL than in college. Just the style of play is a lot different. And when I look at this matchup, when we look at what we expect to happen, we're leaning under in the game because we think that the Texans are going to run the football every opportunity they can. The Jets probably should run the football a little bit as well. So I'm personally not interested there. The only thing you could talk me into would be something on the Jets in terms of their exact scoring. If you want to sprinkle on Jets to score 7 points in the first quarter or 3, you can find 7 points around plus 250. You can find a field goal around plus 370. I would feel more comfortable there than simply taking any sort of money line or anything else, because if they defer to the second half, which a lot of teams do, particularly at home, you could be talking about one full possession is all you get. So for me, it's something that's way better suited in college football than the NFL.
Very interesting. Okay, great analysis. Something you can tuck away for the future as well. Mark Thomas, Larry, asks, big game for Davante Adams. So I looked at the props for both of these guys. Of course, I looked at the props on the receivers on the other side. Davante Adams, if memory serves, was in that like sort of mid 50s range, 56.5. And I think Garrett Wilson was in the like 59, 60 range. I do think the chemistry is developing between him and Rodgers, but I also think he's sort of more in that short area than like your Garrett Wilson. So for me, I'd almost want to target Davante Adams' receptions more than the yards. I think I'm off both of them, though. Any thoughts on Davante Adams or Garrett Wilson?
3 red zone targets for Davante in the first 2 games. I think there's a good chance he gets in the end zone tonight, but I think Garrett Wilson is still number 1 here. If you look at the target share, I think he's still the guy getting the better separation. So I would lean towards Garrett Wilson on the yards, but I do like Davante to get in the end zone.
All right. Farzad says M squared's first quarter keeps my stack huge as always. Mark Buckholtz noting that Alan Lazard is not playing in this game. Okay, I want to rattle off one more thing to you before we go to the recap screen. Mike, Tank Dell is obviously the wide receiver number 1. His prop is in that mid 50s as well in terms of receiving yards. Here's my play on Tank Dell, because I don't think Xavier Hutchinson and John Mechie are going to have a huge impact, although I do kind of like Mechie. Note, his props are not out. Hutchinson's are, but for some reason, Mechie doesn't have any props out. I kind of like the idea of potentially laddering Mechie. With all that said, I noticed yesterday that Tank Dell was plus 270 to lead all receivers in receiving yards. And I'm talking like the Jets receivers included. Any thoughts on that? And really, my take here is I think the Jets are going to win. I think they're likely in a neutral or positive game script. And I think they have 2 receivers that are going to split a lot of the targets. Whereas in theory, Houston really just has 1 alpha receiver and then a bunch of guys that are just going to get a few targets each. Any thoughts on Tank Dell in general, or perhaps Tank Dell nearly plus 300 to lead all receivers in receiving yards?
I think backing him to lead all receivers is definitely an interesting look. I just think there's more likely the scenario where they are playing from behind than them absolutely blowing out. As far as some of the other spots too, I think that when you look at Garrett Wilson and Davante, like the Jets should probably be running the football a lot still in this particular matchup. So we'll see if they commit to it. I know it's hard when you've got a quarterback like Rodgers who wants to throw the football. But yeah, I like the Tank Dell look. I was just quickly trying to pull up my numbers here. I actually had Tank Dell leading the game in receiving yards by 1 yard over Wilson, just on medium projection. So, yeah, I think that Devontae, again, if you're looking at Devontae, it's more receptions than yardage. The guy's just absolutely toast at this point. He has no separation, literally the worst receiver in the NFL in terms of separation so far. So, maybe it changes in this particular spot, but it only helps Garrett Wilson. So for me, it would be Wilson or Tank Dell for sure.
All right. Yeah, certainly like the number on Tank Dell there. Let's see. Been a wild day at work. Did we get an interception prop from Buckets? Buckets, you want to repeat the interception prop? I'm testing you to see if you even remember the quarterback's name.
I will, and I will do you all one better. I'm on A. Rodgers to throw an interception, and I'm also on BetMGM and Mike, I'm curious, and Larry, to get your thoughts on this, at plus 22,500. Texans exact score 27, Jets 23. Just throwing that out there. Obviously, it goes against your money line, so it's not something you'll like, but
I just want to know if you know what A stands for with A. Rodgers.
It's Aaron or Adam. I think it's Aaron, though.
Aaron.
Aaron Rodgers. Let's go.
27-23. That's a lot of points for what's supposed to be a lower scoring game, but that number was appetizing. Exact score. I mean, maybe Buckets, that's another thing you can start doing and hitting somehow.
When you asked M Squared about your correct score, talking about the first quarter on points, I thought you were actually saying correct score. So I quickly brought up MGM and started looking and doing my research on my end.
Mike, any final comments on this game before we get to the recap screen? I do want to remind everybody, Mike and I, in 37 minutes, will be doing Fantasy Football Today DFS, which goes over every game of the main slate and has a lot of prop talk along with obvious DFS talk as well. It's me, Mike, and Meg Shop on the Fantasy Football Today YouTube channel at 11 o'clock this morning. Any final thoughts on Thursday Night Football, Mike?
No, just go Jets. And hopefully we end our Jets betting for the season on a high note here.
I have one thing, Sia, that bodes well for you and Mike, is that Greg Zuerlein is on IR. So they might, this is a team that could be 5-3 with the average to decent kicker. So hopefully Riley Patterson kicks a few through, and maybe 27-23 with 3 field goals, Buckets.
There we go. Kirk Schroyer says 24-13 Jets. I kind of like that score. I might find that and put a couple bucks on it just to do it. 24-13 says Kirk Schroyer. I do like that. Bitsy asks, is there any golf? Actually, no golf tournaments at all. I don't even think the Euro Tour has a golf tournament this week. There will be a golf tournament next week, so hopefully I'll have some picks for you on the early edge for that. All right, let's take a look at the recap screen before we get out of here. Oh, wow. This is very, very spooky. Thursday edition. Mike McClure, Jets moneyline -120. Sia Nejad, Jets moneyline -120. Buckets. Fiorentina team total over 1.5 at -110, and Como Lazio, both teams to score -120. Larry Hartstein, Joe Mixon over 20.5 rush attempts at -106. Well, we didn't dress up for you, but hopefully we delivered some great picks for you, and we'll find out tomorrow on BP Friday on the recap screen. Thanks for being in here. Thanks for all the questions. Thanks for all the comments. Ray Garcia saying the graphics are fire. Absolutely love to see the graphics every single day. Jake, working behind the scenes to make this show close to perfect. The only reason it's not perfect is probably because of me and some others, but we are really trying every single day to be perfect for you all, and we appreciate all your participation. On behalf of Jake the Snake, on the 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s, Mike McClure, Larry Hartstein, Buckets, and myself, the Counselor of Cash. This is the Early Edge. We'll see you soon, folks. We rest our case.